It started innocently enough, the way most nightmares do. When Emily and Daniel brought their newborn son Noah home from the hospital, they were exhausted, but glowing with the fragile joy of new parents. Their small two-story house sat on a quiet suburban street, far from city noise, the kind of place where you could hear crickets at night and the hum of street lamps in the summer heat. The nursery had been painted a soft, pale blue. A rocking chair sat in the corner, next to the crib where Emily often dozed during midnight feedings. On the dresser stood the new baby monitor, one of those video models with a night vision camera, the kind that shows a grainy black and white image of the crib. They'd bought it for peace of mind, a way to check on Noah without constantly running upstairs. The first week was uneventful. The monitor worked fine, picking up little gurgles and the occasional restless cry. At 2 a.m, Emily would rub her eyes, glance at the screen, and shuffle upstairs to comfort him. Daniel, ever the skeptic about technology, sometimes, muttered that people had raised babies for centuries without video feeds, but even he admitted it gave them comfort. That sense of comfort didn't last. It was just after 3 a.m. one night when Emily woke with a start. She wasn't sure why. The monitor sat beside the bed, its tiny screen glowing. Noah was asleep, one tiny hand curled against his cheek. But the sound coming from the speaker wasn't the usual soft breathing or baby sighs. It was a whisper. At first she thought it was static, or maybe she was half dreaming. But then the words took shape, faint but clear. "Hush now. Hush, little one." Emily froze. It was a woman's voice, gentle, almost like a lullaby. For a moment she thought, maybe Daniel had left the TV on, but the room was silent except for that soft whispering from the monitor. She nudged him awake, and when he leaned close, the whispering had stopped. Noah shifted in his crib, but the room looked empty. Daniel muttered something about interference, maybe picking up a neighbor's baby monitor or a nearby radio signal, and rolled back over. Emily tried to convince herself the same. The next night, nothing. And the night after that, silence. Emily was almost ready to laugh it off as stress or sleep deprivation when the voice returned. This time it wasn't a lullaby. It was speaking directly to the baby. "Noah," it said, soft as a breath. "Noah, do you hear me?" The way the name rolled off that unseen tongue made Emily's stomach clench. She snatched up the monitor, staring at the grainy image of the crib. Nothing but the baby, shifting in his sleep. She whispered to herself, "It's interference, that's all." Yet she couldn't shake the chill that swept through her body. Over the next week, the whispers came more frequently. Sometimes it was humming, sometimes words she couldn't quite catch. Other times it was crystal clear. "Don't cry, little one. Don't wake them." Once, she swore she heard a low laugh, though Daniel insisted it was just the monitor glitching. He even went so far as to call the manufacturer, who told him monitors could sometimes pick up other devices, baby monitors crossing signals like cordless phones once did. That explanation held, until the night they both heard their son's name spoken in a voice neither recognized. Daniel sat up straight, staring at the monitor. "Did you hear that?" he whispered. Emily's hands were shaking. On the screen, Noah stirred, his little eyes fluttering as if half awake. The voice came again, firmer this time. "Go back to sleep. Don't look." The words were so close, as if someone was right there in the room. Daniel grabbed the baseball bat he kept by the door and charged upstairs. Emily waited, heart pounding, staring at the monitor. The crib came into sharper focus as Daniel burst into the nursery, swinging the camera angle slightly. The crib was empty except for Noah. No intruder, no shadows, nothing but silence. But when Daniel came back down, pale and shaken, he admitted, something that made Emily's blood run cold. "When I walked in," he said, voice tight, I could swear I saw someone move away from the crib. Just for a second. He looked at the monitor as though it had betrayed him. The days grew heavier, their house thick with dread. Emily refused to nap during the day, convinced the monitor was hiding something from them. She began noticing little things. Noah's toys shifted slightly, the rocking chair angled differently than before, the faint scent of perfume in the nursery, though she never wore any. Daniel, increasingly frustrated, tried to blame her nerves, but even he couldn't explain the recording they found one night. Emily had started leaving her phone propped against the monitor to capture anything unusual. When they played it back, the next morning their skin crawled. The recording began with Noah fussing, then the unmistakable sound of someone humming. A woman's voice whispered, "Don't cry, Noah, I'm here." Then silence, then faintly, "They can't protect you." Emily didn't sleep after hearing that recording. She sat in the rocking chair in the nursery until sunrise, staring at the crib, daring the shadows to move. Noah slept peacefully, too peacefully, as though the whispers had soothed him into a deeper sleep than she could ever manage. By morning, her eyes were bloodshot and her nerves frayed. Daniel tried to reassure her, but his own hands trembled as he held the phone. The voice on the recording hadn't been a glitch, and they both knew it. That night, they decided to stay awake together. They set the monitor between them, turned off every light in the house, and waited. For hours, nothing but the soft hiss of static. At 2:58 a.m., Noah stirred. At 3:00, a soft rustle. And then at 3:07, the whispering began. Such a sweet boy, such tiny fingers. I've missed him. Emily's breath caught in her throat. The voice wasn't coming from the monitor anymore. It was faint, but she could hear it bleeding through the air vents, as though someone was speaking inside the walls of the house. Daniel leapt up and ran to the nursery again. Emily clutched the monitor, watching as the night vision image of the crib flickered. For a brief second, there was something there. A shadow leaning over Noah bent unnaturally, like someone standing too close to the camera. The screen fuzzed, static swallowing the image, and when it cleared, only Noah remained. Daniel came back down minutes later, drenched in sweat, clutching the bat. "There's no one," he said, but his voice cracked. I thought I saw..." He didn't finish. He didn't have to. Emily had seen it too. The following days were worse. The whispers grew bolder, louder. Sometimes it wasn't lullabies or soothing words. Sometimes it was laughter, sharp and mocking. Sometimes it was phrases that made Emily's stomach turn. "Don't let them take you. They'll never hear you cry. I remember the fire." They began finding Noah's toys arranged in strange patterns. Circles, triangles, spirals, even though he was too small to move them. The rocking chair creaked on its own at night, the rhythm, like a heartbeat. Once, Emily woke to find her own childhood blanket, one she hadn't seen in decades, folded neatly at the foot of Noah's crib. They stopped calling it interference. Daniel nailed the nursery window shut. Emily burned sage in every corner of the house. They both considered leaving, but exhaustion and fear pinned them down. Neither wanted to admit they had nowhere to go. The breaking point came 2 weeks later. Emily woke to Noah crying through the monitor, shrill and desperate. She bolted up, but before she could move, the crying stopped, silenced instantly, unnaturally. On the monitor, a figure filled the screen. It wasn't a clear image, not with the grainy night vision, but she could see it leaning over the crib, its face pale and distorted, its mouth moving close to Noah's ear. And then she heard it, not just through the speaker, but echoing inside the room with her. "Shh, go back to sleep. They'll never wake up." Emily screamed for Daniel, who burst into the nursery seconds later. He swore he saw someone at the crib, a dark figure that dissolved into smoke when he swung the bat. Noah lay there, blinking up at them, unharmed. But the monitor screen stayed black for hours after, no matter what they did. When it came back on the next night, something was different. The camera no longer showed the crib from above. It showed a wide shot of the nursery, angled from the corner near the ceiling. Neither Emily nor Daniel had moved it, but the new angle captured more of the room, including the rocking chair. That was the first night they saw her. She wasn't always visible. Sometimes the chair rocked empty, creaking back and forth. But sometimes, in the flickering static of the feed, there was a figure sitting there. A woman with long, stringy hair, her face a blur, her hands folded neatly in her lap. Watching. Always watching. Daniel smashed the monitor against the wall the next morning, shattering it into pieces. They bought a new one, a different brand, from a different store across town. For 2 nights it worked perfectly, showing only Noah sleeping peacefully. On the 3rd night, the whispers returned. On the 4th, the woman was back in the rocking chair, waiting patiently. Emily tried to research the house. She called the realtor who had sold it to them, pressed for details, dug through county records. Buried in the archives was a brief newspaper clipping from 30 years ago. A fire had gutted part of the home, killing a woman and her infant child. The article mentioned that the woman was found in the nursery, rocking the baby even as the flames consumed them both. Emily stopped reading after that.